Can we have stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any comments people might have with respect to this, we can have during the Executive Director's report, if appropriate, for public session. We'll do roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Here.
Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mr. Brodsky?
Here.
Mr. Coyne? Mr. D'Elia? Mark Ford?
Present.
Mitch Ford? Mr. Motolo?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Cesny? Mr. Williams?
Here.
And Mr. Zoyer.
Thank you. Approval of the August 19th minutes. Is there a motion? Second. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thank you very much. Dick, resolution?
Yes, first on the, under agenda item number 4, we have a contract award, capital construction contract, resolution and agenda, briefing memo, and the resolution is attached to that. The facility in question is the Oneida Street Pump Station, located on Oneida Street near the Route 8 overpass. Was constructed in the 1960s to serve the southern portion of New Hartford by the town of New Hartford. Takes care of the Washington Mills area, supplies a couple of tanks up on Grange Hill Road. Tank is nearing the end of its service life, but was well built and well maintained by the town of New Hartford, which is why it's kind of one of the last ones of the existing stations that we're getting to. You may recall about 6 months ago, the board did approve work on the roof, exterior walls, new doors. We wanted to get that envelope work done before we entered the station and replaced all of the mechanical, electrical equipment, which is near the end of its service life. More new high-efficiency motor drives, some safety equipment's also going in. The station was connected to our electronic monitoring system about 5 years ago. We'll reconnect all of that up, and by the time we're done, we'll have a new serviceable station that's safe, we can monitor, and should give us decades of good service. The plans and specifications were issued for bid, public bidding per the board procurement regulations. Most of the plans were prepared in-house by the engineering department with some outside help for electrical consultants. We did only receive one bid from Henderson Brothers, as indicated in the resolution, at $197,846. The current available budget for the project is $205,030. We do have a little bit of consultant inspection work on the part of the electrical consultant we need to budget for, but that would be less than $1,000 or so. So there are sufficient monies. The work will be done within 180 days. Henderson Brothers has worked for us in the past, most recently on the Walker Road upgrade project, kind of similar but much smaller in scope. And before that on Valley View upgrade and Pleasant Street projects. Not quite sure why we didn't get any other bids other than the fact that it is a type of project that involves a little bit of work on all the systems. And if you're not the type of company that can do that, probably not too interested in providing the quotes. We did check Henderson's bid quals last round for Walker Road. They were acceptable. They did a good job on Walker Road. And we would recommend the board that we do award to Henderson Brothers this project.
Any questions of information of Dick related to this? Is there a motion to approve? Second. Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Richard again.
Capital projects, we did meet last Friday. We talked about this award and updated the committee on the water supply application progress, discussed our fire service termination policy, and we have a little homework to do in engineering on that. There'll be another meeting to discuss some possible revisions for that policy. That was it.
Any questions on that? We had a finance committee meeting. Do you have anything you want to bring people up to date on?
Yes, I believe that everyone has the monthly report for the month ending September 30th. A couple of pages to kind of look at, obviously the executive summary, read that, but I'll push on to page 2, and you can see that we have a significant reduction in consumption going on. This has been trending the last several months. We are now down approximately 16 million cubic feet compared to the prior year. It's been jumping each month. As a result, on page 5, you'll see that water sales specifically is down $300,000 year-to-date. Now, we do make up some of that with some of the other fees that we've charged throughout the 6 months. And overall, we have some savings on the operating side to the tune of about $700,000. So overall, we're looking good on we're looking okay on a cash flow basis. Overall, on revenues expenses, we're not in a negative per se, but we did have several meetings. Pat and I sat down with department heads, and we have gone through a contingency plan. We found approximately $650,000 of savings in addition to what's already sitting there that we've identified that we can either postpone or eliminate to keep addressing this reduction in consumption. And we'll keep you up to date as months go on, if this continues to trend.
Yeah. And I would just say, I'm not sure I would really say it's savings. I mean, we're not really saving some money. It would really just be delayed expenditures. A matter of looking at our priorities and deciding what can we afford to do now. Is there anything we can afford not to do right now? And we have, and the departments know this. If the decline continues, and it's just a linear decline where, if we're $300,000 behind, and we're going to be $600,000 behind at the end of the year, as it unfolds, we will begin to, we've already begun to apply the brakes on spending, and we've agreed up front what things we can hold back and not do at this point in time without crippling services or really compromising our position on our infrastructure. But eventually these things will need to be addressed. So it's really more of a postponement rather than simply a savings. Because the need doesn't go away when we don't spend the money.
I was referring to the fact that we have positions that are unfilled.
Yeah.
And so that's gone.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And then there's a couple items that we're just not going to do. We don't need to do. It's already passed. We were going to outsource some of the grass cutting. The season's already by. We haven't done it. So.
Well, we're monitoring it very carefully, and if we need to curtail spending through the rest of the year, we think we can end the year in the black even with the revenue decline.
Any questions by members of the board? I just have one. We get a snapshot each budget related to changes in major accounts and then the accumulation for the rest. And the other thing is, it is only month 5, which I think.
Month 6.
I was just looking, September.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple of months to go to get a sense. Would you be able to put together an analysis of where the major differences in decline between last year and this year? Not so much where the decline is, because that doesn't, you need a comparison of why.
Right.
Besides the florist stuff you go through.
As a general, we did look at that as a general rule. Quarterly customers, on average, are down about 140 cubic feet per quarter, and monthly customers are down about 400 cubic feet per month. So everybody's down. And then on page 2, you can see some of the big, if you want to call it big losers. So, but that's kind of a rule of thumb. When you multiply that out, you get pretty close to what our reductions are.
I'm just curious if it's consistent over large swaths, or is it 35 accounts whose decrease this year compared to last year?
It's consistent over a swath that's very large, which equals the northeastern United States. We're seeing, and we're hearing from our rate consultant and others that this is not uncommon what's happening to us right now. We think that a good part of this is weather-related. It's been such a wet spring and a wet summer. Water use has just been down. We'll know as we go through winter, because if it's weather-related, then that effect should taper. And if we have a normal winter compared to prior winters, then we ought to see year-to-date, October through March, something similar to what we've seen in the past, which means that the decline could level off
and the damage that's been done, may not get worse. But, well, that's right now, it's just a theory, we gotta monitor it.
Any other
I gotta believe
questions?
that. I mean, just with the summer, people watering the lawns, gardens, and, pools, no, you really don't have to do that, right?
Yeah, the golf courses
So,
were way down, we know that.
golf courses, right,
Yeah, so yeah, we're hoping that it's seasonal and that.
Well,
that will
Mo's open
rebound.
the North Utica, so
Sure.
should make up a lot of that.
That's right.
A couple quick other items. We handed out to you a proposed budget calendar just for your review, just to see if there's any conflicts in there or issues that you may have. We do put in there things like tentative board meetings, budget workshops, things like that, and those have moved in the past. So just take a look at it, see if you have any issues with that. We'll be working with that as time goes on. And the final item is our audit is complete for the past fiscal year. There's a pile over there of financial reports. If anyone wants to take them when they leave, they're there for your.
Management letter with that?
Let me get that. I forgot that. I can get that to you. Yes, management letter as well.
Okay.
I can get that to you.
Any other questions? I know you're really looking forward to reading all those pages on the.
Good.
Good
stuff.
But it was actually, I like all the history and the information on the authority is very.
Shows our consumption over
And the
the
charts.
last 10 years.
Charts are
and
great.
What our average bill is and things like that. So it's interesting stuff.
Okay, thank you. Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. I have a bunch of items I'll go through, and then I'm going to invite Steve Gasner to give you guys an update on the automated meter reading, and a suggestion actually from Bruce at one of the committee meetings last week, that it'd be good to give the board a little bit of an overview of where we're at so far. We're making great progress. Steve's going to do that in a minute, but I thought I'd just get through some other things before we get absorbed in the presentation. First, you may have seen an article in here, the color copies that are in there. It features Dr. Connie Schreppel from our Water Quality Department, and as you well know, Connie's very involved in the water industry and known throughout the country, and has participated in all kinds of studies and research. And Connie, if you wouldn't mind just maybe giving them the 60-second overview of what this article is about and how it came.
Really, about 2 years ago, this Lab Manager magazine contacted me, and they did an article about an environmental lab, and what we do and how we do it, and that type of thing. And it was the same lady that wrote the article, so she contacted me again because she was doing a feature on how you have to change to stay ahead of the game and improve. So she had sent me some questions and interviewed me, and the other day when the mail came, there was the article. And I was kind of flattered because I thought she did a very nice job. It kind of got across really what I was trying to say.
Another thing that's come up is that I think you've all heard a lot in the news lately about recent developments at the microchip site adjacent to, actually right on the SUNY campus with the so-called Quad C building. The announcement was a consortium of global industry players that have agreed to do research there. And so that's going to bring 1,000 jobs. It's going to bring about 150,000 gallons, right, Dick? 150,000 gallons a day?
First phase.
First phase. So it'll be a pretty good water user. But what it also means, I think, is that the site is going to be even more attractive now to the actual manufacturers. And so getting the big fish, so to speak, the microchip manufacturer, I think, we're inching closer to that kind of a decision with this research that's going to be going on. I think it's going to be highly attractive to manufacturers to want to be near that research. The reason why I bring that up now is because some of you may know that we have a lifetime bonding cap that's been imposed through our legislation when the authority was created and took over in 1996. And the way that it's structured, it's $100 million of lifetime issuance. It's not based on outstanding principal. What that means is that even though we pay down old debt, it doesn't open up the ability for new debt. Even if it was all paid off, $100 million, that's it, unless we go back to the legislature and explain what we're doing. If we were fortunate enough to have a microchip manufacturer come here, their water use would be now considerably larger than was first envisioned when this plan was unfolded 10 years ago, because they're now moving from 300 millimeter wafer raw materials to 450, and the water use goes up with it. So each plant would be 6 or 7 million gallons a day, and the site's configured for 3 plants. We could very well find ourselves in a situation where over a 5 or 6 or 7 year horizon and full build out, they may be looking for 20 to 22 million gallons a day there. That would really impose some infrastructure improvements on us pretty quickly, and a lot of bonding. And so my feeling right now is that it's not too soon to go back to the legislature and the governor's office and talk about doing something with the debt ceiling. We don't want to be the last holdup in the event that a company decides they want to come here, and then at the last minute say, oh, by the way, we need some legislation that's going to allow us to do what we need to do on our end. So I believe the time is right now to get this while the state's interest and involvement is really at a peak right now at that site. So this week, Jim and I will be on a conference call with our bond counsel at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher and our financial advisor, Rick McCarthy, looking at what might be the best sort of package, and then begin drafting an amendment to the legislation that would then come back to this board in some fashion, I'm sure, for approval, and I'm sure with the Water Finance Authority Board as well. But I just want to let you know that sometime in the next 30 to 45 days or so, I hope we have some kind of legislation that would be ready to move forward through our representatives.
I thought we already discussed that, though, and said that we wanted to go forward with that.
Right.
Pardon me? Yeah.
We did, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I want to let you know now that the timing is that it's going to probably start happening pretty quickly. So we may have something back in front of you, maybe by December for approval, if not sooner than that. Dick mentioned the rules and regulations we're going to be looking at. We're going to be reviewing that and bringing it back at least maybe through the operations committee or the capital improvements committee for the board to look at. There's a couple things that have put it on the forefront, but we're going to continue doing a complete review because we started that a while ago and didn't get all the way through it. We want to make sure that we have everything up to date, particularly with the rate hearing coming up. If there's any fees that we think need to be adjusted, the time to do that would be in conjunction with the budget. Legal services, we are going to be anticipating a change. There's an RFP that we've put together for general counsel. Ted, I don't know if this is something that I should be telling the board, but we'll be making some adjustment. Ted is going to be backing away from his duties here over time, over the next few months as our general counsel. And so in preparation of that, we put together an RFP for general counsel legal services. It actually was advertised once. We have any responses yet?
No.
No responses yet.
It'll be in the paper again.
We're going to advertise it
Thursday
again,
and Friday.
is the way I'm bringing it up again.
No,
So, yeah, so it'll be going in this week.
Retiring.
Well, in fairness, I think it went in on Saturday, and I don't know that a lot of people, yeah.
Sunday.
So we're gonna tell the OD we need some more prominent time and space.
It'll be on Thursday.
But it's gonna go in again, and I'm sure we'll get some participation this time around. So just want to let you know that anticipation, we'll be bringing back some proposals in the executive committee based on what the chairman wanted to do. We'll be reviewing that.
Was it copies? Isn't the Bar Association in a good place maybe to send a copy?
Yeah, it'd be an excellent
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it to the bar.
And obviously, we're looking for people that have experience with public sector law and public authority law in particular. And there are some good firms out there. Top Ops. Top Ops is a kind of a quiz show type format. Just last week at the Central New York Waterworks conference out in Canastota, some of our folks were there, and there were 3 teams of technical people from us, Syracuse Water Department, and Onondaga County Water Authority. And you have teams of 3 of your technical folks, and they get peppered with questions, kind of like Jeopardy, I suppose, or Family Feud, I'm not sure. Maybe in our case. But our team was Steve Donovan, a longtime employee here, Frank Bray, one of our new employees, Gabe Greco. They're all have operation, at the plant, at the water treatment plant background. And our guys cleaned up. And Dick and Connie were there, and they were very proud. The final scoring was 12 points to 3 points to 1 point. So it was a huge margin. Our guys cleaned up. So congratulations to our team. They did a wonderful job, and they'll be moving on to appear in Rochester at a larger regional tournament now through New York State, AWWA. So, our expertise, Connie and others, is becoming very well known throughout the land, and congratulations to our team. last thing, two things I want to mention, then we'll get to Steve's presentation. As you know, we're going into our budget season, and we have a rate consultant that typically does that. His last year, his engagement was up last year. He's going to be giving us a quote this year. We can go out with a full RFP, but basically, he's given us the same rate plus a 2 or 3% escalation each year, and does that whole job for roughly $5,000. So my feeling would be that he's got everything set up. He knows our operation inside and out. I think if we wanted to start fresh with another firm, there'd be a whole lot of investigation on the learning curve and setting up spreadsheets in the budget. And it would take longer, and my suspicion is we wouldn't get that service for anything less than $15,000, probably closer to $20,000. What I'd like to do right now is to ask our rate consultant, Ed Marcus, many of you have met Ed, to at least give us a proposal, and if there's a strong sentiment that we ought to put this out as an RFP, we could do that as well, but we'd have to do it very quickly.
Well, it should start with the finance committee.
Yeah, so,
take their-
and that's the next question. I was going to ask Rocco, we can get a finance committee meeting sometime to, look at the rate consultant services, but also, I just want to run an idea past the finance committee and then see what the committee thinks before the board maybe takes it up. I've been thinking lately that it might be advisable for us to look at changing our fiscal year. We run April 1 to March 31st. And there's a couple things that are somewhat problematic with that. One is that it gets a little confusing for folks whether we're on a fiscal year or a calendar year. You say fiscal 013, they don't know, is that the year ending March 31st, starting April 1, of 13? But the practical implications are this. When board members change, that happens at the end of December. January is when we vote on our budget. Inevitably, we have new board members coming in January that have not been participating in the budget process at all, have been totally left out. If we were to move our fiscal year to a calendar year, it would mean that we'd be doing the budget more like August and September and voting on it in October. And it would be done as the full board that's been here is finishing up, and then new members are coming in when it's not so busy. And then the final thing is that trying to do budget workshops over the holidays in December and early January, it's difficult. Everybody's busy at that time of year. It's hard to get people together and focused. And so I just wanted to make the suggestion that if Rocco, if your committee wants to take a look at that, then if we wanted to do that, what we do now is we would do an interim 9-month budget that would then end on December 31st. And then we would start the budget process.
I think the biggest
a little bit
issue,
earlier.
would the bonding companies have any problem with that?
Well, we're going to be on the call on Wednesday with our bond counsel and our financial advisor, and we'll find that answer.
What I'm saying, I mean,
We'll find out that answer and see if there's anything legally that prohibits us from doing it. I don't think there is, but I'll find out.
Was the fiscal year in the legislation?
No, I don't think it is, but the budget and the rates are going to be affected by the
Right.
fiscal year, so
Right.
it's got to be part of the public hearing.
Right. Yeah. But we'll talk to bond counsel on Wednesday when Jim and I are next. We'll find out if there's anything legally that would prohibit us from doing that.
and then we'll just get a finance meeting set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put something on.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Before you go to Steve, anybody else, any other questions of Pat? We'll go from there to this.
Great, thanks. Steve Gassner is stationed at Campbell Street, but does a number of things, and one of the things that he's been doing for us is overseeing not only the meter installers for the last few years, but also as our point person on the conversion to the AMI system, which stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure, which are the radio modems that are replacing the outside touchpads. And progress is going very well. I mentioned this at a committee meeting last week, and Bruce suggested that it would be a great idea to give you a little more of a formal update on it. So Steve is going to take over, and I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you, Pat. You referred to it as a presentation. I wouldn't consider it much of a presentation, only have a couple of pictures. So. But I did want to update you, and I appreciate you asking, because it is something I'm really excited about. Pat and I have been trying to get this going for 10 years since I started, and about a year ago you guys decided to move ahead with it, and it's something that you really should be proud of. To give you an update where we're at, we basically started the project on May 28th of this year, and since that point we have 8 of the 14 towers and collectors already installed. And in this map, I know it's kind of difficult to see, but the blue is where we actually have the MIUs, and I'll get to that in a second, installed in homes. But these yellow dots are where the towers are being set up currently and to be set up. And again, we have 8 out of the 14. They're a combination of solar powered and AC units, which solar power I think is really kind of neat to try to be more green, if you will. And since that time, we've put 4,000 MIUs. MIU means meter interface unit. That's a small box that goes on the house or inside the house or in a pit where it transmits to the collector to which we get the reads. Each one of these collects 24 hourly reads. So we had 4,000. We're getting close to 100,000 reads a day off these meters. So, and kind of give you a background of how these work. They work on what they call I'm probably not going to pronounce this right, non-ionizing frequency, which, to get a better understanding of that, it's basically similar to your rabbit ears on a TV or an FM transmission on your radio. And the thing is with this, it's even less than that because they transmit at a constant pace so that you can see the picture or hear the information. Or they do it between midnight and 7 in the morning, and they just grab the information and that's it. So it's very, very mild radio frequency.
And the transmission itself is less than a millisecond, so it's just a quick
Yeah.
burst. It's not a constant exposure to any kind of ongoing, radio signal.
So with 4,000 installed, where does that leave us? Where that's basically 10% of our system right now. We hope to be a little bit further at this point, but what we're projecting on doing is that as we install these, it's going to free up resources from reading that we're going to be able to transfer into installing. So we expect to be ramping up more so the second half of the project. But also, too, I was going to throw in some information as some of the board members have been here for many years, and as you know, we've been trying to maintain our meter change-out program, which we've been maintaining that as well. Probably 10 years ago, the numbers were opposite. Right now, I have less than 5,000 that are older than 12 years old. I think probably when I started, 35,000 were more than 12 years old. So we've done great strides in that. It has slowed down quite a bit because of the AMI. We're really trying to push that so we could free up people to kind of make it out. But yeah, when it's all said and done, we expect the system, all the meters to be less than 12, and to put that in perspective, AWWA says around 15 years on a household meter, depending on some other factors as well. We can replace that. But anybody have any questions?
Steve, the only clarification maybe I should offer is when Steve said we get 24 hourly reads off each meter, it doesn't transmit 24 separate times. So each meter interface unit will wake up and send one signal, generally between midnight and 6 a.m., and it'll send a packet of information, and in that packet are the 24 hourly reads. So really there's 24 hours between hearing from each meter, and once it comes in, we can look back over the prior 24 hours. But we can't, if we see something at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we can't come back and wait for the 2 o'clock reading to come in to see if it changes. But generally speaking, it's just a tremendous improvement compared to getting one read every quarter as we walk around right now.
One of the benefits that we talked about early on was the ability to identify issues that might happen that should be called to the attention of either the water authority or the homeowner. Have you had any instances so far that were interesting and were the result of having information electronically like this?
Well, actually, Ann Milgrano and I went out and had several meetings, well, at least 2 on site. Ann's had numerous phone calls. You may recall that a couple came here to speak to the board a couple months ago about a very high bill. And we spoke to them ahead of time in a meeting, so they didn't come to public comment period. But Ann and I agreed to go out and visit with them on site, and their use was really high. But we were able to monitor it. They told us when they weren't going to be home. We could watch to see that the actual usage dropped off during those time periods. And I'm not sure that we know exactly what happened, but it appears now their use has normalized. So something on site has changed, and but I know that the information we provided to them was very helpful in realizing for them what was going on there. But you're right, it'll allow us to spot runaway consumption. So if someone has a leak in their house, and the numbers are really shooting up. The software is going to be able to identify that.
Are we building in the software some sort of reporting capacity that would identify the exceptions? So like somebody's notified by email or somehow that might want to take a look at this and create.
Yeah, and actually, Brittany Whitney over in our IT department has been one of our lead people dealing with Neptune meters and really mastering the software. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we'll be able to do email alerts to people when they want that kind of exception report sent to them. But also, we're going to have a web portal set up so that customers can log in and see their account and actually bring up graphs. And if their bill's a little high, they'll be able to actually spot. If the bars are real tall for 2 days, they'll say, oh, that's right, I filled my swimming pool, that time. Or I was watering my lawn or, something like that. So the customers will have much more control over getting the information out of the system themselves, which we hope will cut down on some of the phone traffic. But I think we'll be able to do email notifications to folks as well.
Currently, we do have email notifications that come in to Steve, myself, and Jim Mack, a few other people. They come in every day if there's an issue or something along those lines. You can set it up account specific, so if there is a customer who wants to be alerted, it is possible to do that.
But you're getting exception reporting then?
Yeah.
If there's something in the system that's happening,
Right. If
it's
there's,
telling you,
a
at least within the meters, right?
Right, if there's a continuous leak or a backflow.
Yep.
things
That
along
gets
those
reported.
lines.
Yeah.
And when are we expected to be complete?
Can I answer that?
Well,
My target date is 3 years. We're trying to reduce that dramatically. But
3 years from now?
3 years from the 28th of May.
Okay.
So, I tried to be realistic about that. I'm hoping to cut that down dramatically, but it's hard to say. Well, I mean, one for instance, which is really kind of enlightening, is that we're trying to, even though it does look pretty sporadic, we're really trying to concentrate in
Cluster.
certain areas to follow billing.
Mhm.
And one interesting point is that we had a section that would normally take 4 days to read,
Mhm.
took 2 hours just for
Right.
the exceptions. So as we move along, I'm hoping that that's going to be more the norm than the exception, but, so then we will be able to.
I'm just thinking of
Catch
the
up.
monthly billing proposal.
well, we're trying to get complete routes done.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
one by one, the routes will go off, the quarterlies, we'll be getting the daily reads. And then, if we want to transition towards monthly billing, we don't need to wait, I don't think, 3 years to do that.
Well, it's going to be finance committee and a lot of
Yeah.
talk about it, but
But we can transition, folks. So as we roll along, we'll have complete routes that'll be converted. It's not going to be just a shotgun approach, so.
Right.
A lot of these things will roll out as we're going through, but most of the benefits and even the monthly billing is something that we could probably start talking about, as early as next spring.
any other questions of Steve or Pat? Okay, any old business? Any other old business?
Yes, I spoke with, the Operations Committee met about 3 months ago, but we didn't have a meeting last month. I spoke with Mitch on Saturday, and he asked me to convey this, that we spoke about the travel. And when people go to seminars or whatnot and reports, and what we came up with was the board should be notified before any travel, who's going, what it's for, and we should get a report when they come back. It could be included in our packet. We can look it over. If we have any questions, we can ask at the meeting. If we don't, there's no need to ask or waste any board time.
Are you going to write that up as a proposal for consideration?
I can, yeah.
Because that's something I think the board needs to talk about.
Okay.
Any other old business? Any new business?
Yes. Great. This is very last minute, we apologize, but it really only came up very abruptly on Friday,
It'll cost you $25.
or Thursday.
Total waste out.
Thursday or Friday, I forgot.
Right, well, Vince isn't here. If he was here, we'd worry about white stuff. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, I was actually at the county executive office and found out from someone who was in the same meeting, who had just come out of a sewer meeting, that the engineers on the sewer project had gotten called out several times to talk about this. So it was the town of Whitesboro has a customer that's looking for some water service. And Vince Coyne, who is appointed by Whitestown, called and spoke to Dick several times during the day on Friday, and asked that if it was at all possible, if we could take up this issue at least one way or the other.
Does this require a vote?
Yeah, I believe it would. And I'd like to ask Dick to explain it.
Is there-
because
is there any
They're
objection?
seeking a waiver.
Okay. Is there any objection to reviewing this evening and voting on it? Okay, let's go.
So Dick, maybe you want to just give them the overview, please?
Sure, just a little bit of background. What is being requested here, you have a page from the town of Whitestown and a sketch attached to that that just came in before the meeting. And then we also have an 11 by 17 color copy of the area in question that we did receive late last week. And what's being requested is a waiver from the board's frontage requirements for water mains. Back in 2002, the board adopted about a dozen new regulations, and one of them was that parcel desiring water service would have to install a water main entirely along an edge of the parcel. For instance, if you're on a corner lot, you'd have to do one side, or if you're running along a rural road, you'd have to bring the main not only in front of your house, but to the end of the parcel you own. And that's so the main would be available for the next potential consumer. And it's been applied numerous times since that period. Both commercial, residential homeowners have been required to put them in at least 200 to 300 feet, typically as much as 700 feet of main. We have in the past had similar requests for waivers, and they have not been acted on or approved at that time. Options have been given, however, if you have a 700-foot lot and subdivision is possible, if you divide the lot in half, then you only have to go to halfway. So there are some options available. From what I understand from the town, it's not the case here. The property in question is located on Airport Road in Riscony area, town of Whitestown, approximately a mile north of Judd Road from the Bank of New York there, or about a half a mile from Route 69, the area of the Shamrock Golf Course. And the town's just recently finished up about 7,000 feet of main. And this is main that's going to result in about 24 new customers for the Water Authority in Water District 25. However, there's one more parcel on Airport Road that's just outside the district that the town is asking that we allow to hook up. The main is on the opposite side of the road. As you can see, about halfway down, it's in blue on this drawing. The parcel's in pink. The water district boundary is in yellow. The existing main in blue. The amount of additional main that would be required, about 150 feet, is in red. The main is to this point, and the town has asked that this lot outside the district, be allowed to connect into the existing water main without extending it the 150 feet. For the reasons noted, financial reasons, the town has indicated that they are working on extending the water district down to Route 69 possibly at some point in the future. As I mentioned, what we try to do is look at not only the regulation, but past application and what, a granting of a waiver might do in terms of precedents for future. We did have, just quickly doing some research, 3 applications where they did not decide to install the full frontage. One where the main was already 90% along the front of the lot. They subdivided in order to get the full frontage. 2 other ones, one on Route 365, they were 40 feet short, ended up putting that in. And another one had partial frontage and elected not to install the water main. So we have had this question posed in the past, and through strict application of the requirement, people have decided to, yes, put it in, or not, go ahead and put it in. Just got it in, haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of research on what's been done, but that's basically a summary of the situation.
Is there any cost to the authority?
No, not in a case such as this.
Is there any cost to the authority for doing it?
No, there's not.
Just revenue, right?
It's a different case than those in the past, because in those cases, it was the owner that had to extend the main. In this case, it's the town. The town It's the applicant. is that understood?
Well, they're applying on behalf of because the lot is outside the district. The town indicated in their letter that they could not extend the main because it's outside the district. He hasn't paid district charges. They're also saying they can't afford to extend the main. So will you let us just run the service, or let them run the service to the main that the town did put in that goes halfway down his lot? So he's not in the district, hasn't paid district charges, so they can't pay for the main.
But if he's hooked up, he will pay district charges.
They didn't, I don't know, they didn't indicate that.
Well, it is a little different in the sense that the owner's not going to be extending the main, the town is.
I don't know.
Well, that's probably my concern, is who's going to extend the main? Is the town going to connect it to the owner, or is the
That's it.
owner going to build it across a public thoroughfare?
Well, that's the.
That's the
service
service.
line.
The homeowner would be responsible for the service, coming from the main across the road. It's extending the main further to the north or northeast on Airport Road to the end of his parcel, about 150 feet, that, is required under regulations as they currently are written.
Why would we not want to do it?
Exactly, I mean,
Well, I mean,
the
just
security
revenue.
is here. And different from those earlier cases, the security is that the town's intention is to extend the main, so it's really a municipal project more than a private one. That's the way I see it. So,
I think typically in the past, the reason why the requirement was there was because if somebody were to build next door, further down the road, and they want the water, now they have to pay to extend the main through the rest of the other guy's property before they even can cross their own property. And so, it was an issue of fairness and equity in the past, where if you wanted it, you had to bring the main all the way across your property to the edge of your property, so that the next person was kind of starting clean with their own costs, and not making up an extra 150 feet in front of someone else's property just to get it to their property. Question here is somebody going to build next door? Well, on the one side of the street, you can see the golf course is there, so no one could build next to this parcel. But across the street might be a different story. And so, and then the other, one part of the consideration would be that the district is paying to bring the main out to where it's going to go. This person's going to connect up, having paid no district charges, and basically, reap the benefit of the infrastructure that the district is putting in without paying for anything more than just a service pipe. From our standpoint, I don't know that the water authority should care whether this homeowner is benefiting off their district and his neighbors. If that's something the neighbors want to be concerned about, that's their business, I guess. From our standpoint, it's another customer that wants to buy water. But if somebody else further down the road wants that water and has to extend the main, that's where we're going to potentially end up in an argument of who should pay for that piece.
How
And-
long will that service be, do you know?
Oh, the service itself is probably close to 100 feet.
You need a port box? You need a port box or not?
No, not in that case. No. Less than 200.
Questions? Comments? Objections?
They're saying their timing is urgent because there's a contractor on site. But if this contractor doesn't do it immediately, there's other contractors that could also do it.
I would move it, as long as there's no cost to us and, Ted feels legally we don't have any issue. I'd move it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, in this case, to provide a waiver to allow the homeowner to connect to the system outside of our regulation. Any comments, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we got enough. Any other new business? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.